All right, we'll go ahead and get started with the flood outlook, the original intent of this webinar, and then Mother Nature had to get in the way and shower us with an awesome potential for winter storm blizzard tonight and tomorrow. So I'll try to keep this quick since we didn't want to go past 2 o'clock with the original invite. A lot of review from what we saw 2 weeks ago with our last outlook issuance on January 27th. So just wanted to do a quick recap of our new numbers and things that we put out earlier today. So risk for significant flooding did go up just a bit since the January 27th outlook. 2 weeks ago, we were saying around normal to maybe a bit higher than what our historic flood chances are. So we did go up a little bit. So now we're just generally saying overall a bit higher than historic chances. Minor to moderate flooding is still the main threat for most places across the area, but things did increase enough to bring us some chances for some low-end major flooding in some locations. As we all know, the drought conditions from last year have pretty much improved across the entire area due to that fall precipitation that we got that helped recharge our soil moisture and bring our base stream flows back to near normal. This winter so far, the snowpack and the snow water content in that snowpack has generally been around to maybe slightly above normal in some spots. Looking ahead into the rest of February, we might see some chances for above normal temperatures and still that equal chances for below normal or above precipitation. And that's going to continue as we go into spring. March, April, and May climate outlooks suggest equal chances for below normal or above temperatures and precipitation, indicating there's really no strong signal either way for any of those outcomes. So on the left is the January 27th outlook, colored dots that we like to call them for the different flood, 50% chance for different flood levels at our forecast point locations. So on the left there, you can see with that last outlook issuance, a lot of kind of reds and oranges indicating that minor to moderate chances, 50% chance at those locations. Then move on over to the right graphic, which is with our numbers for today's issuance. Do you see there is a bit more purple scattered in there? So some increased chances for low-end major flooding at some locations up and down the valley, especially on the Red River main stem. Just to recap again from our drought conditions, so that graphic on the left, August 17th, 2021, was when we were at the height of drought conditions across the basin, with a lot of D3 and D4, extreme and exceptional drought. And then this last outlook, or this last drought monitor that just came out this week, continues to indicate that all those higher level drought conditions have been eradicated with that fall rainfall. And now we're, most of the southern basin is actually kind of out of any drought categorization, with the yellow indicating abnormally dry with a little bit of moderate drought, that tan color, kind of up near the international border on the North Dakota side and maybe into north central Minnesota. So by and large, drought conditions have obviously improved since last summer and last fall, kind of looking more normal with our soil moisture for this time of year. Fall and winter precipitation. So here's a graphic showing the departure from normal precipitation that we've seen across the basin. This is from beginning of October 2021 up through roughly this week. And you'll see mostly greens and blues, which indicate that we are about 2, 4, 6 inches above normal for that time period for precipitation across the basin. And compared to last year, this is a solid 3 to 6 inches more than what we saw at this time last year. So as we all know, it's been wetter this winter, much more than last year. So not surprising information here. Soil moisture, like I said, that fall rainfall really helped us kind of get some of that back. That graphic on the left is from last July, showing how we were pretty close to the bottom of the rankings there for soil moisture content. And on the right is this week's estimate for soil moisture rankings. You can see the white kind of around normal for much of the basin, maybe even closer to above normal across the far southern portions of the basin. Stream flow, like I mentioned earlier, was very, very low for much of the basin last summer and last fall. You can see on that top left graphic there with a lot of reds and oranges. And then in November, as we were getting closer to freeze up, you could see that fall rainfall really helped us jump back up to greens and blues, kind of more in that normal to slightly above normal base stream flows across the basin. So we've covered kind of the first two ingredients that we need for our usual spring flooding. We've got fall moisture, base stream flow. Now we'll move into the rest of the ingredients. Frost depths just continue to get deeper. You know, we were pretty warm to start the winter, and then we had a pretty cold January and very early February that were pretty cold, which allowed our frost depth to really start to plummet. So that blue dot with the 32 inches is here at our office. So that's how far down frost depth goes here in our backyard. Observations out of Fargo are down to 16. You can kind of see that, you know, there's quite a range across the basin. Those shallower amounts across the south, more in that like 8, 10, 15, maybe 20-ish inches. And then as you go further north, especially from Grand Forks northward, you'll see that 30 plus. So the scale's kind of deceiving because that dark blue only goes 24 to 60 inches. So we're going to be seeing that dark blue in the Northern Valley for quite a while here now till we start thawing out. Snow depth, just comparing this image from, you know, a week ago or so, our snow depth values did go down just a bit. And that was thanks to some of the warmer temperatures that we've had. We had some periods above freezing for a while, and a lot of locations did receive some rainfall, which helped bring that snowpack down a little bit. Still roughly 6 to 20 inches across the basin as a whole. I have the numbers on the bottom in red because those are just our most recent numbers out of our office and from our official Fargo observer. And these were just taken within the last hour or two. So that does incorporate the snowfall that has fallen so far today. We did get 2.5 inches already so far here in Grand Forks. So that did bump us up to 12 inches of snow on the ground, and Fargo is sitting around 8. The map itself doesn't incorporate today's snowfall, it's just from yesterday. So the little bit of snowfall that we did get will bring this up just a little bit. Snow water, still looking very similar to how we were this time 2 weeks ago. Like I said, the snow depth itself did go down a little bit, but that water obviously hasn't gone anywhere yet. It's not soaking into the frozen soil or anything like that. So that water is still hanging out in that slightly smaller snowpack. Today, our snow water measurement just a couple hours ago was 3.3 inches. So that is up a little bit from where we were 2 weeks ago. And we did get an observation from our Fargo observer who's sitting around 1.9. Other than that, kind of in that 2 to 4 inch is the most popular amount, I guess, across the basin. There is some pockets of maybe 5 plus. So we'll have to see how that plays out and if those kinds of numbers can become more widespread. Here is looking at a graphic provided from our River Forecast Center folks. And this is actually the simulated or the modeled, what their computer model is showing for snow water content as like a ranking compared to their historical record. So up in our neck of the woods, you'll see on the Minnesota side, a lot of light blues, generally 60, 70, 80, 90% of historical record values. So pretty high up there. But then you'll see on the North Dakota side, and kind of around part of the central Red River Valley, more in that 90 to 100%. So we are seeing, you know, on the higher end of the spectrum in the historical rankings for this modeled snow water equivalent for our River Forecast Center folks. Talking on the same terms, here is like the actual values that they're simulating. So the actual inch amounts, and you'll see on that Minnesota side, 2, 3, 4, like we were kind of looking at earlier a couple slides ago, 2, 3, 4 inches on that Minnesota side, and maybe on the North Dakota side, pockets of 4 to 5 inches, a little bit more. So nothing out of the ordinary or that we weren't expecting from our other measurement techniques. So this is the official snow water amount that goes into these probabilistic river outlook numbers. So now we've covered frost depth, the winter snow, and the snow water content. So what are we looking at as we move forward here? I'm not going to talk into detail too much about this system that's occurring right now in the next few days, but generally overall in the next week or so, not looking at too much for precipitation, maybe a few tenths here or there of liquid precipitation with this system that we have coming through. After that, just, you know, it looks to be more of just the same that we've kind of been experiencing. Smaller precipitation amount systems here or there, dropping a little bit of snow or even a little bit of rain or mixed precip, but not a whole lot precipitation-wise, but more chance for impacts with falling snow and blowing snow and the strong winds that we keep seeing. So we're not out of the woods for storms or blizzards itself, but there's no real big precipitation makers on the horizon here. Moving into more of the mid to late February timeframe, the Climate Prediction Center is showing that we will continue to see some of those above normal temperatures across our area and those equal chances for precipitation. So no real strong signal either way, kind of looking like more of this, small system here or there dropping just a little bit of precipitation. The same can be said as we go further into February and the beginning of March. We might get out of that above normal temperature regime, but continue to see, equal chances for below normal or above precipitation as we head into March. And the same can be said as we head into the rest of winter and into the spring. So March, April, and May still showing the same thing. No strong signal either way for below normal, above temperatures or precipitation. I'm gonna try to fly through these graphics because there's quite a few. So this was the January 27th probabilistic numbers for Fargo. So we already covered this graphic last time. And you'll see within that 25 to 75% range, the best chances are going to be for moderate to low end major for the Fargo-Moorhead area. And if we skip ahead, so here's the February 10th, and I'll go back and forth, and you can see it kind of very little bit of change. That black line or that conditional current simulation line did move up just a tad. So still looking at that moderate to low end major for the Fargo area. Looking down closer to the 75 to 99% chance, so kind of more of the guarantee of what we could see with mild conditions and really little to no additional precipitation. This was again back from January 27th. You'll see Fargo kind of fall into that minor flood stage. And then you'll see if I flip to February 10th, that did go up just a little bit. So maybe some increased chances for moderate flooding at Fargo, but still that minor to maybe low end moderate. And lastly, up at the higher end, really didn't change too much. Still, if we get, for some reason, end up with really cold conditions and significantly above normal precipitation throughout the rest of the winter, and then especially as we head into spring and see any heavy rainfall, the chances for major flooding will obviously increase. So between the last outlook issuance and this one, there really wasn't too much change at the top end of the spectrum there. Same thing for Grand Forks. I'm just going to flip through them pretty quick because it's pretty much the same thing. The moderate chances did go up just a little bit the last 2 weeks, and then these low end chances, increased chances for minor flooding. So starting to be a pretty sure bet that we'll see at least some minor flooding here in Grand Forks, East Grand Forks area. And then up on that higher end, continued, we get some significant precipitation between now and melt time will lend us towards these higher end numbers in the major flood category for Grand Forks. Lastly, if we're looking at our probabilistic graphics, here's Devil's Lake, which changed very, very, very little from 2 weeks ago, maybe a tenth of a foot here or there. So really not a big deal in change. Still looking at possibility for maybe 2, 3, and if we're really talking at pushing 4 feet increase in lake levels, obviously that's going to depend on much more than just the snow melt, and that goes all the way out through September. We could be looking at rainfall and such impacting these lake levels. And note that these numbers do take into account the usual pumping for 350 CFS starting in June and running through early November. So that number might fluctuate as we go throughout the summer, but right now that's what we run with is 350. So real quickly, I just kind of included these graphics. You could take a look and you could see the top left is 2 weeks ago, January 27th outlook. The bottom right is today's outlook. And you'll see the Devil's Lake numbers, like I said, really only changed by a tenth or so. So no real change there. And then if you look at the 25 to 75% probabilities on the red main stem, from the 27th, you see a lot of reds and a few spots of purple indicating moderate to major flooding. Then we move down to this last outlook and you'll see that there was a bit of an increase in the chances for those purple numbers or major flooding numbers. And then moving on to the Minnesota tributaries, 2 weeks ago we were saying, decent chances for minor with a little bit of moderate flooding possible, denoted by the orange and the red. And then with this last outlook today, you'll see that the red numbers did increase quite a bit, showing a little bit better chances for moderate flooding on the Minnesota tributaries. On the North Dakota side, with a little bit more snow and snow water content, you can see 2 weeks ago we were saying good chances for moderate and potentially some major flooding, especially along the Cheyenne. And you'll see with this outlook today that those numbers kind of stayed about the same. So still good chances for moderate, with some chances for major flooding along the Cheyenne and possibly the Wild Rice. One last shout out to our probabilistic flood outlook summary page. If you haven't visited yet, go to weather.gov/FGF PFOS, PFOS. So that's just another way to depict these numbers that we keep showing you, and hopefully a more easy to read format. And they are available for all of our river forecast points and will be updated with any of our spring flood outlook information. So please provide feedback if you've got a few minutes, because that is what allows us to keep this product up and running. So you can go ahead and email that to me at amanda.lee@noaa.gov. Or if you go to the PFOS website, there is a formal survey you can fill out. That works too. So lastly, we did raise the risk for significant flooding just a little bit higher from where we were at 2 weeks ago. Minor to moderate flooding continues to be mostly the main threat across the basin, with some low-end major flooding cropping up as a 50-50 possibility. Near normal soil moisture and base stream flow, and near normal to above normal snowpack and snow water content for this time of year. Obviously, some winter left to go, and then the wild card spring season that we'll see. So the rest of February, possibly a little bit warmer with above normal temperatures. But then as we move into the rest of the winter and into the spring, equal chances for below normal or above temperatures and precipitation. Really no strong signal in any direction. So that's all I have for today. Ending hopefully right around 2 o'clock. We'll have for sure, at least two more outlooks issued. Thursday, February 24th will be the next one. And then 2 weeks later, again on Thursday, March 10th. So we'll follow the same kind of format. 1:30 p.m. webinar on those days. The registration link from this webinar today will work with both of those. So